I opened the door and found her standing there, soaked from the rain, hair plastered to her face, clutching a little boy by the hand and a ratty backpack over one shoulder. She looked at me like she hadn't slept in days, voice trembling when she said, "He's yours, and his real father is missing." For a moment, the world just stopped. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared at the two of them. Her, shivering on my porch like a ghost out of a life I thought I buried, and the kid, clutching her jeans, wide-eyed and scared, the same dark hair and stubborn mouth I saw every morning in my own mirror. My name's Adam. I'm 35, and up until that rainy Thursday night, I thought I had a pretty good handle on my life. Steady job at a construction firm, a beat-up truck that always started on the second try, an apartment with half-unpacked boxes still stacked in the hallway because, honestly, who was I rushing to unpack for? I wasn't anybody's hero. Wasn't anybody's first call when life got messy. Until now. Until she showed up. Her name's Jenna. And once, a long time ago, we almost had a future together. We met when I was 23, still dumb enough to think hard work alone could outrun your past. She worked the coffee counter at the gas station near the job site. Bright smile, snarky sense of humor, the kind of laugh that made you think maybe the world wasn't so heavy after all. We spent a year pretending we weren't serious. Another year realizing we were. Then one ugly night, we weren't anything anymore. She left. No fight. No grand goodbye. Just a note on the counter and silence that stretched across years. And now? Now she was back. With a kid. A kid she said was mine. I blinked hard, wiped my palm on my jeans because suddenly they were slick with sweat, and stepped aside. "Come in," I said, because what the hell else do you say to that? Jenna hesitated, just a flicker of doubt in her eyes, and then she pulled the boy closer and stepped inside. The rain pounded harder against the porch as I shut the door behind them. It felt final somehow, like I was sealing myself into a story I wasn't ready to tell. The kid, he couldn't have been more than 5, clutched the backpack tighter like it was the only thing tethering him to the ground. His eyes flicked around my apartment, taking in the worn couch, the chipped coffee table, the half-unpacked boxes. He didn't say a word. Neither did Jenna. For a long minute, the three of us just stood there, breathing in the thick, stunned silence. Finally, she crouched down in front of him, brushed a wet lock of hair off his forehead, and said softly, "Go sit on the couch, sweetheart. I need to talk to Adam." Sweetheart. That word punched me in the gut harder than anything else so far. The boy nodded, silent, obedient, and shuffled toward the couch. He climbed up carefully, perching on the edge like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to be comfortable. Jenna straightened up, arms crossed tight over her chest like she was holding herself together by sheer will. "You're probably wondering what the hell's going on," she said, voice rough. I opened my mouth to answer, but realized I had no idea what words were supposed to come out. She didn't wait for me. "I wouldn't be here if I had any other choice," she said. "But things went bad. Real bad." I nodded once, trying to keep my breathing steady. "Start from the beginning," I said. "Tell me everything." She dragged a hand through her wet hair, leaving streaks of rainwater down her arm. "I wasn't lying when I said you're his father," she said. "Biologically, anyway. His name's Noah. He's 5. I swallowed hard, looking over at the boy, Noah, who was swinging his feet over the side of the couch, little sneakers knocking against the coffee table. 5 years. She'd kept this from me for 5 years. "You said something about his real father being missing?" I asked, forcing the words out through a throat that felt lined with sandpaper. She nodded, biting her lip. "After I left," she said slowly, "I met someone. His name was Chris. He raised Noah. As far as the kid knows, Chris was always there." My stomach twisted. I didn't know if I was angry or heartbroken or both. "I didn't tell him about you," she said quickly, reading the look on my face. I thought it'd be better that way. Safer. Simpler. I didn't want to confuse him. Safer from what? I asked, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. Her eyes darkened. That was the first time I realized just how deep this rabbit hole might go. "Chris got involved with some bad people," she said. "Real bad. At first, I thought it was just gambling, maybe some debt. But then there were people showing up at the house, people who didn't knock, didn't smile, didn't take no for an answer." She shivered, like the memory itself was cold. 3 days ago," she continued, "Chris left. Said he had to fix it. Said he'd be back by morning." She laughed, a broken, bitter sound. He didn't come back. I leaned back against the door, feeling the weight of it all slam into me. And now you think they'll come looking for you? I asked. She didn't answer. She didn't have to, because the fear in her eyes said it all. This wasn't just about dropping a kid on my doorstep because she was tired of playing house. This was about survival, about keeping Noah safe. And somehow, in all the chaos and betrayal and unfinished conversations between Jenna and me, he had become the most important part. He's your son, she said again, softer this time. Whether you want him or not, he's yours now. I looked over at Noah, this tiny, fragile person who didn't ask for any of this. He looked up at me then, blinking those big brown eyes that were way too familiar. And just like that, the choice was made. I wasn't walking away. Not this time. The first thing I realized, standing there staring at Noah, was that there's no manual for this kind of thing. No checklist for when your ex shows up with a 5-year-old kid and a backpack full of secrets. You just move. I walked over to the couch and crouched down so I could look Noah in the eye without towering over him. He shifted nervously, clutching the frayed strap of his backpack like a lifeline. "Hey, buddy," I said, voice low and even. "You hungry?" He nodded, quick, almost guilty, like he was afraid the answer might be wrong. I smiled as best I could. "All right, let's see what we can find." In the kitchen, I dug through cabinets and managed to scrape together a peanut butter sandwich and an apple. Not much, but the way Noah's eyes lit up when I set the plate in front of him nearly broke me. Kids are simple like that. Give them food, a warm place to sit, and someone who notices their breathing, and they bloom. While he ate, polite and careful, like he thought he had to earn every bite, I turned back to Jenna. She stood by the door, arms wrapped around herself, still dripping rainwater onto the carpet. "You staying?" I asked. She shook her head. "I can't," she said, and there was something in her voice, something raw and final, that told me she wasn't just talking about tonight. She glanced at Noah, swallowed hard. "They'll come looking for us," she said quietly. "I can't risk being near him when they do." I rubbed a hand over my face, trying to make sense of the 1,000 questions pounding through my skull. "Who exactly are they?" I asked. Jenna hesitated, then said, "Guys Chris owed money to. Not just bookies, people who expect blood if they don't get paid." "Wonderful. So you figured the safest move was to bring him to me," I said. "It's not just that," she said, stepping forward. "You're his real father, Adam. I should have told you years ago. I was scared and selfish. But now, I'm trying to do the right thing." Her eyes were shining with unshed tears. "I can't stay," she said again. "If I stay, I'll put him in danger. They know my face." I felt something hard and ancient lock into place inside me, a gear I didn't even know I had. The part of a man that steps between danger and the people he's supposed to protect. "All right," I said, voice low. "He stays." "And me?" she asked, almost a whisper. I looked at her, at the woman I once loved, at the mistakes stitched into her skin, at the fear she couldn't hide anymore. "You do what you have to," I said. "But don't make promises you can't keep." She flinched like I'd slapped her. And maybe, in a way, I had. But the truth didn't come with soft landings. Not anymore. She stepped toward the couch, knelt down in front of Noah. He set his sandwich down carefully, crumbs sticking to his small hands, and looked at her with a mixture of love and confusion so fierce it nearly wrecked me. "I'm gonna go for a little while, baby," she said, brushing his hair back. Noah's lower lip trembled, but he didn't cry. He just nodded, trusting her. Trusting me. "I'll come back when it's safe," she promised. It was a promise we both knew she might not be able to keep. She kissed his forehead, whispered something in his ear I couldn't hear, and stood up. Our eyes met one last time. And then Jenna opened the door and disappeared into the night. I stood there for a long minute, hand on the doorknob, listening to the rain swallow her footsteps. Noah sat on the couch, swinging his legs again, staring at me like he was trying to figure out if I was friend or foe or something else entirely. I wasn't ready for this. Not even close. But ready or not, it didn't matter. Because this kid, he was mine now. I walked back to the couch, grabbed a blanket off the armchair, and draped it around Noah's small shoulders. He leaned into it instinctively, the way tired kids do, and I felt something in my chest crack open. "All right, little man," I said softly. "Let's figure this out together." His eyes met mine, cautious, curious, maybe even a little hopeful. And for the first time since Jenna knocked on my door, I didn't feel helpless. I felt needed. And needing to be needed? It'll change a man. The first night with Noah wasn't some sweet, heartwarming montage. It was messy, awkward, exhausting in a way I didn't know a man could feel without swinging a hammer for 12 hours. After Jenna left, he just shut down, curled up on the couch under the blanket, clutching that frayed old backpack like it was the only thing tethering him to this new, broken orbit. I didn't know what to do, didn't know what to say. I'd never even changed a diaper, let alone comforted a 5-year-old who'd just been ripped out of the only life he'd ever known. But you figure it out. You have to. I knelt down in front of him again, keeping my voice low and steady. "Hey, buddy," I said. "Let's get you cleaned up, all right?" He didn't answer. Just nodded once, so small, so careful, and slid off the couch. I found an old t-shirt in my drawer that looked like it would fit him like a nightgown. Set it on the bathroom counter. Ran the water warm but not hot. He watched everything I did like a little soldier, silent and wide-eyed. When he came out of the bathroom 10 minutes later, drowning in my t-shirt, his backpack still slung over one shoulder, I thought I might break clean in half. "You want to sleep in the big bed or the couch tonight?" I asked, trying to keep it casual. He hesitated, biting his lip. "The couch is fine," he mumbled, voice barely there. "You sure?" I said. "You can take the bed. It's no big deal." He shook his head quickly, like he was afraid even asking would be too much. So I let it be. I built him a little fort on the couch, pillows, extra blankets, the kind of haphazard cocoon you build for a scared animal who might bolt at any second. He climbed in without a word and pulled the blanket up over his head like armor. I sat nearby for a while, just in case. Noah didn't cry, didn't ask for Jenna, didn't even fidget. He just lay there, tiny and still, like a kid trying to make himself invisible. And somewhere around 2 in the morning, when the house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming, I heard it. The soft, broken whimper of a little boy trying not to cry. It shattered me. I didn't rush over. Didn't yank the blanket back and smother him in hugs. I just sat there, close enough that he knew I wasn't going anywhere, far enough that he could choose. It took 20 minutes, maybe 30. But eventually, a small hand snaked out from under the blanket and found my wrist. He didn't say anything, didn't look at me, just held on. And I let him. Held his tiny hand in mine and stayed that way until his breathing evened out, slow and deep. I stayed up the rest of the night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how the hell I was going to do this. How do you become a father overnight? How do you catch a falling star when you're barely standing yourself? I didn't have the answers. Still don't, honestly. But by the time the first pale light of morning started creeping through the blinds, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't letting him fall alone. The next morning hit like a freight train. I hadn't slept. My back ached from the kitchen chair. The apartment smelled like wet blankets and cold fear. Noah was still sleeping, curled tight in a ball, when I crept into the kitchen and tried to figure out what a kid eats for breakfast. Lucky for me, I had exactly 3 things in the fridge. Half a gallon of milk that was 1 day past the expiration date. A case of cheap beer. A single, bruised apple. Not exactly a parenting win. I ended up running down to the corner store and grabbing cereal, juice boxes, Pop-Tarts, anything that looked vaguely kid-friendly. When I got back, Noah was awake, sitting cross-legged on the couch with his backpack in his lap. He didn't look scared anymore. Just blank, like a little machine running on autopilot. I set the grocery bags on the table and said, "Hey, bud, you want cereal or a Pop-Tart?" He looked at me for a second, calculating like a man twice his age. Finally, Pop-Tart. Good kid. While he ate, I tried to figure out my next move. The reality was setting in fast. I had no legal custody of Noah, no birth certificate, no idea what schools he'd been to or doctors he'd seen or allergies he might have. Hell, I didn't even know if he liked dogs. And somewhere out there, Jenna's problems, the ones she was so scared of, were still breathing down her neck. Which meant they were breathing down ours now, too. I didn't know when, or if, the people Jenna had warned me about would come looking. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to wait around for them to find us unprepared. I needed help. Real help. And I knew exactly where to start. After Noah finished his breakfast, I handed him the remote, told him he could watch some cartoons. The corner store was just downstairs, 2 minutes tops. I grabbed my phone and stepped outside. Then I grabbed my phone and stepped outside. Dialed the number I hadn't called in almost 2 years. It rang once. Twice. Then a gruff, familiar voice answered. Detective Harlan. I swallowed hard. "Hey, Uncle Joe, I said. I need a favor. When you grow up around cops, you learn real early that there are two kinds of favors. The kind you ask easy, and the kind that costs you something. Calling Uncle Joe was the second kind. He wasn't just my uncle. He was the guy who dragged me out of bar fights when I was 20 and stupid. The guy who bailed me out the one time I crossed the line trying to protect someone who didn't deserve it. We hadn't spoken much in the last couple years, not since I decided I wasn't cut out to wear the badge like the rest of the family. But when you're holding a scared little boy who looks like you, and you don't know where the next threat's coming from, you swallow your pride. Joe met me at the diner 2 blocks from my place, the kind of spot where the coffee's bitter, the waitresses call you sweetheart, and the locals don't bother pretending they're not eavesdropping. He slid into the booth across from me, big hands folded on the table, badge still clipped to his belt like a warning. Talk, he said. I did. I told him everything. Well, almost everything. Left out the part where I still wasn't sure Jenna hadn't dumped a problem in my lap just to save herself. Focused on the important stuff, the people looking for Chris, the way Jenna ran, the fact that they might come after Noah thinking he was leverage. Joe listened without interrupting. Didn't even touch his coffee. When I finished, he sat back and let out a low whistle. You always did find the complicated ones, he muttered. Yeah, well, I said, rubbing the back of my neck. This time the complicated one left a kid. He nodded slowly. You get a paternity test yet? He asked. No, I said. But one look at him. I shook my head. No doubt. He's mine. Joe studied me for a long second, not the way a cop studies a suspect, but the way family looks at you when they're trying to figure out if you're in over your head. Then he said, all right. First thing, we make it official. I frowned. Official how? You need emergency custody. Paperwork. Right now, legally, you're just some guy harboring a kid. If someone shows up with a fake story and a halfway decent sob act, the law's not going to be on your side. The thought made my stomach twist. I can help, Joe said. I know a judge. Friend of mine. Quiet hearing, fast ruling. It won't solve everything, but it'll give you standing. How long will it take? I asked. Couple of days. Maybe less if we push. I nodded. Good, I said. Do it. Joe leaned in, voice dropping low. And you're gonna stay alert. No hero moves. No cowboy crap. If someone shady shows up, you call me. You call 911. Don't think you can handle this with your fists. I bristled a little, but he wasn't wrong. I get it, I said. He tapped the table twice with 2 fingers, a silent good, and stood up. I'll start the paperwork, he said. You stay put. You watch the kid. I stood too, tossing a few bills onto the table. Thanks, Joe, I said. He clapped me once on the shoulder, heavy, grounding, and said, You're doing the right thing, Adam. Even if it feels like hell right now. I watched him leave, badge flashing under the flickering diner lights, and for the first time in days, I felt something close to hope. When I got back to the apartment, Noah was still on the couch, cartoons playing low. He looked up when I came in, eyes wide and watchful, that battered backpack still clutched like a life raft. I knelt in front of him again, making it a habit now, always meeting him at a level. Hey, buddy, I said. We're gonna stick together, okay? You and me. No matter what. He stared at me for a second, like he was measuring whether or not to believe me. Then slow, cautious, he nodded. I felt it again, that old, tired ache behind my ribs that said this kid deserves better than broken promises. I didn't know how to fix everything. Didn't know how to make up for all the years I missed. But I knew one thing. I could start now. I ruffled his hair gently, he didn't pull away this time, and stood up. All right, I said. You ever played Go Fish? He smiled, tiny, crooked. And just like that, for the first time since Jenna showed up on my doorstep, the apartment didn't feel like a bomb shelter anymore. It felt like home. But peace doesn't last when danger's already sniffing around your door. That night, after Noah finally fell asleep, curled in the middle of my bed, breathing slow and steady, I stayed up, sitting on the edge of the couch, checking the locks 3 times over. And that's when I saw it. A car. Parked 2 houses down. Headlights off. Engine idling low. Sitting there like a wolf waiting for the sheep to forget he's there. My blood ran cold. They were here. They'd found us. And this time, I wasn't the one they wanted. It was Noah. I didn't turn on any lights. Didn't move fast. Didn't slam doors or pace or do anything that might tell whoever was out there that I'd spotted them. Instead, I slipped quietly across the living room, pulled my phone from the charger, and crouched low under the window where the curtains hung half-closed. One hand on the phone, one hand checking the pistol in the drawer by the front door, the one I'd kept more out of habit than need until now. I called Joe first. He picked up on the first ring. "They're here," I whispered. "Stay put," he barked. "Backup's 5 minutes out." 5 minutes. Might as well have been 5 hours. I peeked out again, just enough to see the silhouette of the car. Still there. Still idling. And now? A figure getting out. Tall. Hood up. Walking slow, like he had all the time in the world. I looked back toward the hallway, where Noah slept, dead to the world, a stuffed bear he must have pulled from his backpack clutched in his arms. I had two choices. Wait for help, or move first. I knew better than to play cowboy. Joe had hammered that into me since I was old enough to walk. But every instinct in me was screaming one thing loud and clear. Protect the kid. At any cost. I moved. Quiet, controlled. Slipped out the back door, around the side of the building, keeping to the shadows. The figure was at the porch now, 1 foot on the first step, scanning the windows like he already owned the place. I couldn't let him get inside. Couldn't risk Noah waking up to a nightmare. Maybe it was stupid. Maybe Joe would have ripped me a new one. But I couldn't risk letting him near the door. I stepped out of the shadows and said, low and sharp, "You're a long way from where you belong." The guy froze. Slowly turned toward me. Moonlight caught the edge of his face, young, mid-20s maybe, pockmarked and mean-looking, with that jumpy edge that told me he wasn't a professional. He wasn't here to talk. He shifted his weight, sizing me up, and I saw the glint of something tucked into the waistband of his jeans. Gun. Perfect. He raised his hands, mock casual. "Hey, man," he said, voice greasy. "No need to get excited. Just looking for someone." "You found the wrong house," I said. His eyes flicked past me, toward the windows. "Looking for a kid," he said. "Cute little guy. Name's Noah." Ice water poured down my spine. I pulled the pistol from my jacket, slow and steady, not pointing it at him yet, just making sure he saw it. "Not tonight," I said. For a second, everything hung in the balance, the night so still it felt like the earth itself was holding its breath. Then headlights flared down the street. Red and blue. Sirens low but steady. The guy cursed under his breath and backed off fast, slipping into the shadows between the houses. I didn't chase him. Wasn't stupid. Instead, I holstered the gun, backed toward the porch, and waited with my heart slamming against my ribs until the cruiser screeched to a stop in front of my place. Joe was out of the car before it even rolled to a full stop. He didn't waste time asking questions. Didn't scold me for moving. Just clapped a hand on my shoulder and said, "You all right?" I nodded. "Kid. Still asleep." Joe blew out a breath. "Good. Let's keep it that way." His guys fanned out, checking the street, taking statements, gathering what little they could before the trail went cold. Meanwhile, I stood on the porch, feeling the world tilt slightly back onto its axis, realizing just how close I'd come to losing everything before it even had a chance to start. By morning, it was clear. This wasn't going to be a one-time scare. They wanted Noah. Bad enough to send muscle. Bad enough not to care if they had to rip him out of a stranger's arms to get him. And Jenna? Wherever she was, whatever promises she'd made to herself when she walked away, it wasn't enough. She wasn't coming back. Not in time to fix this. It was on me now. Joe pulled me aside before he left, voice low and serious. "You need to disappear for a while," he said. "At least until the custody hearing." "Disappear where?" "I know a place," he said. "Quiet. Secure. Friend of mine owns a cabin 2 hours north. No neighbors, no traffic. You lay low. You stay safe. You come back when the court papers are signed." I hesitated. I didn't want to run. Didn't want to act like prey. But then I looked back at the house. At the little boy curled up under my blanket. And I knew there wasn't a choice. "I'll pack," I said. Joe nodded, clapped me on the back. Smart man. An hour later, Noah and I were in the truck. He sat in the passenger seat, legs too short for the seatbelt to fit right, backpack still clutched tight. The city lights faded behind us, swallowed by open road and thick woods. And somewhere deep in my gut, I knew. We weren't just running. We were surviving. We were beginning something. Something messy. Something real. Something worth fighting for. Even if the past wasn't done with us yet. The cabin wasn't much to look at. 2 rooms. Sagging porch. A chimney that leaned like it was telling secrets to the trees. But it was ours for now. A place to hide. A place to heal. Joe knew what he was doing. No neighbors close enough to hear a gunshot. No cell service. No easy roads in or out. A fortress, disguised as a memory. Noah adjusted faster than I expected. First day, he barely said a word, just clung to the window ledge and watched the woods breathe. Second day, he let me teach him how to build a fire. Third day, he smiled, a real one, when I burned the toast and pretended it was gourmet. And me? I learned how to be two people at once. The man who kept a loaded shotgun within reach at all times. The man who could kneel beside a 5-year-old and show him how to roast marshmallows without catching his eyebrows on fire. We were surviving. We were making something new. And it was almost enough to make me forget the wolves still hunting our scent. Almost. On the fourth night, just as the moon climbed high enough to silver the windows, Noah woke up screaming. The kind of scream that rips you out of sleep like a gunshot. I was there in seconds, sitting on the edge of the bed, trying to calm him down. "It's okay, buddy," I whispered, stroking his back. "You're safe. I got you." He clutched at me, sobbing into my shirt, his small hands fisting the fabric like he was afraid I might vanish. Between gasps, I caught one broken word. "Mom." I closed my eyes. Because how do you explain to a little boy that the person he trusts most might never come back? You don't. You just hold them tighter. Promise them with your arms, your heartbeat, your bone-deep stubbornness that you'll stay. No matter what. The next morning, it happened. A car. Wrong color. Wrong make. But sitting there at the end of the long dirt driveway like a snake coiled to strike. I moved fast. Told Noah to hide, under the bed, just like we practiced. Gave him the old walkie-talkie Joe had left behind. Told him not to make a sound unless I said the secret word. Then I stepped outside, shotgun cradled low against my chest, heart thundering. 2 men got out of the car. Not the same greasy kid from the city. Older. Harder. The kind of men who didn't leave witnesses. One of them smiled, a slow, mean smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Easy, friend," he said, hands half-raised. "We just want to talk." I didn't lower the shotgun. "You picked the wrong house for talking," I said. The smile widened. "You've got something that doesn't belong to you." I tilted my head. "No," I said. "I've got someone who doesn't belong to you." The tension snapped tight between us, buzzing like a live wire. One wrong move, and this whole place would light up. Then, a miracle. The sound of another engine, roaring hard and fast up the gravel road. Red and blue flashing. Joe. He must have been close by, checking up on us without telling me. The 2 men cursed under their breath, backing toward their car. Joe skidded to a stop, door flying open, gun drawn. "This is over," he barked. "On your knees. Hands where I can see 'em." They didn't argue. They knew when they'd lost. By noon, they were cuffed and stuffed into the back of cruisers. By dinner, Joe had enough evidence tying them back to Chris's mess to bury them under the jail. And me? I was finally able to breathe. The court hearing happened 2 weeks later. It was quiet. Private. Joe pulled strings to make sure it stayed that way. Jenna didn't show. She didn't contest it. Maybe because she was still running. Maybe because she knew, deep down, she'd already made her choice when she left Noah at my door. The judge didn't make a big speech. Just signed the papers and slid them across the desk. Custody granted. Permanent. Official. Noah was mine. Not just in blood. In every way that mattered. That night, back at the apartment, Noah helped me unpack the last box. My old baseball glove. Some framed pictures. A few books Mom had given me years ago that I never bothered to crack open. At the bottom of the box, Noah found something I didn't even remember packing. An old, beat-up photo of Jenna and me. Young. Stupidly happy. He held it up, curious. "Who's that?" he asked. I took the photo gently from his hand. "That's someone I knew a long time ago," I said. He nodded like that was good enough. No questions. No sadness. Just trust. Just belief that whatever the story was, it didn't change the fact that I was here now. He yawned, rubbing his eyes, and I scooped him up, carrying him down the hall to his new room. The one we painted together last weekend, blue walls and glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. I tucked him in, sat on the edge of the bed, and stayed until his breathing evened out. Stayed a little longer after that, because sometimes peace feels so fragile you don't want to move in case it shatters. When I finally stood up, I looked back once, at this small, perfect, complicated life I hadn't planned for but wouldn't trade for anything. And I realized something. Family isn't blood. It's the people who stay. The people who fight. The people who show up, even when it costs them everything. Noah was mine. And no matter what came next, storms, scars, secrets, he would never have to wonder if someone wanted him. He would know. In every way that mattered. He was home. And so was I.